Alicia, Stephanie. It's nice to see you guys. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So I need an idea from you guys. Most of you are seniors. I know some are juniors, but most of you are seniors. And so how many of you guys have started on your college essays? Okay, Jade has. Yeah. Okay, so you guys are welcome to post in chat too. And I know not all of you might be considering college. Some of you guys might be considering the military or a career in something else. But I'm assuming most of us are college bound. And if that's the case, the deadline for those college applications, including essays, are coming up. All right. So that means we need to get started on the college essay. And I've worked with seniors for a number of years who just don't get started on it. And then right before the deadline are freaking out and don't even know how to write the essay. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to work on that. That's our first writing for the first 6 weeks is the college essay. And even if you're not headed to college, this will be a good experience for you to kind of reflect on who you are. If you have already got your college essay where you want it, this essay will work for scholarships. If you are a junior, save this. You will need it next year, and it will be a relief to you to already have it done. Okay, so we're starting with the college essay. Here you go. Okay, but first, before we do that, we're going to do an activity that I like to actually put before you guys frequently. So kind of get used to this one. It's called What's Going On in This Picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link into our chat. If you would like to go to this picture yourself and kind of see it up close, you can use the chat or the link I just posted. Otherwise, you will look at it on my screen. And so here it is. It's called What's Going On in This Picture. So what I want you guys to do is look at this picture and tell me what you think is going on and then what details kind of support that. What makes you think that that's what's happening in the picture?
They look like they're doing online learning.
They do. So Daniel, why do you think that? What is telling you online learning?
They have their computers open, or like they're on their phones, and they have notebooks with them.
Absolutely. Notebooks, computers, phones. And given our current world situation, that makes sense to us because that's what we're doing, right? Okay, what else can you tell me about what's happening in this picture?
Some guy's passing by on his bike.
Yeah, he is passing by on his bike. He doesn't seem to be bothered by these people studying on the side of the road. So what does that tell us?
It's very common.
Yeah, this is probably common. And Jared says maybe they are struggling for internet connection. And Jared, why do you think that? I think so too, but tell me why you think so. And while Jared is, I assume, typing that in the chat, y'all tell me what else you notice in this picture. Obed? Steph, what you got?
They don't have shoes.
They don't. They don't have shoes. And that, what does that make you think, Isis?
I don't know, they're poor or like, well, I don't want to say poor, but I don't know, they don't have shoes. So I guess
that's a possibility.
More than like necessity items. I don't know.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's possible that they don't have money. And Jared is weighing in saying, because in other places they have remote areas, meaning not just able to study, they have to travel or move for their benefit. Yeah. So they're not studying in their house, they're studying outside, right? For all we know, their house could be just outside this picture. And maybe that's how they're able to access Wi-Fi. Maybe they just like being outside, you know, grass on bare feet. That's kind of fun. Or maybe they don't have shoes. This could also tell us something about where in the world they live. Maybe they live in a place where it's hot. Maybe they live in a place where being barefoot is the custom, right? This could be in America. This could not be in America. What do you guys think? America or not America, and why do you think that? What is this setting telling you?
It looks like a poor community. I don't think it's in America.
What's telling you that, Obed? Where are you getting that from?
I can see the environment they're in. Like next to the guy on the bike, I can see the other road on the side. It's a dash road, and
That's, yeah, exactly. I noticed that too, and I noticed that on the main road, there aren't the markings on it.
yeah,
That most roads in America have, or even curbs. So probably not a city or community, you know, someplace, yeah, probably not in America. And then you guys, right, exactly, Jared. Most areas don't have benefits like America do, so they struggle, right? Another thing you might have noticed is what the girls are wearing. They've got the head scarf on. I think it's called, I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I think it's hijab. It might be hijab. But that scarf on, so that tells you that this is most likely a group of Muslim girls, I'm assuming, because it looks like they're wearing skirts, but those could be pants. I'm assuming they're young. They're wearing masks. I can't really tell. So that tells me it's probably current, because masks are a COVID kind of coping mechanism. So, you know, there are lots of details in this picture that tell me stuff. We won't find out what the caption on this picture is and what's really happening until Friday. So I don't know any more than you do. All I have is the picture. You guys are doing great. You're picking out lots of things and then supporting that with evidence, which is the habit I want us to get into. So we'll be doing this activity with different pictures frequently. So nice job. Give yourselves a pat on the back. And we're going to go on to the next thing. Okay, how many of you guys have worked with the rhetorical triangle before? You've heard of it. You've used it. All right, Obed, is a yes? Okay. I like the rhetorical triangle. I use it frequently. But the rhetorical triangle is old, right? Like Aristotle, Socrates, Cicero, they came up with this in ancient Greece. It's like 2,000 years old. So y'all can imagine that the way people use the rhetorical triangle, that's changed a lot, right, in 2,000 years. So I'm going to show you how I use it and how I interpret it. You might have learned something different, and that's okay. 2,000 years, it changes, okay? So at the top of the rhetorical triangle, you have the speaker. In the bottom left corner, you have the audience, and in the bottom right corner, you have the subject. This is an equilateral triangle. All three sides and angles are equal. So all of these things are equally important, right? And you guys know this. I can't remember if I've used this example with y'all yet, but let's just say I wanted to go to the mall and spend some money. If I wanted to get money to buy something, I would ask my dad, not my mom. My dad was far more likely to give me money, especially if I said, Daddy, can I have some money to go to the mall? And the second I say Daddy, I remind him I'm his little girl and he just wants to provide and take care of me. So sure, he gives me money. If I went to my mom, if I changed my audience and said, Mommy, can I, she'd be like, stop. Just whatever you're thinking of, stop. It's not going to happen, Kelly, right? And I don't know if you have siblings, but if you do, my youngest sister was far more likely to get money to go to the mall than I ever was, right? So if you change the speaker, this also shifts. if you change the subject, if I was asking for money for school, again, I was far more likely than to get it for going to the mall. So those things are equally important and they're always in play. And this is important to remember as you are writing something to persuade somebody. And that's what you're going to be doing in the college essay. So here's what I want you guys to think about. Oh, and the way the triangle works is the speaker is trying to get the audience to do something or to think something about the subject. So I was trying to get my father to give me money so I could go to the mall, right? Okay, so let's think about who your audience is for the college admissions essay. It's going to be the college admissions officer. And what I have for you guys is a blog called College Vine about all things college. You might want to check it out. And I'm going to drop a link in the box in case you guys want to go there yourselves. And if you don't want to go there, that's fine. You can just look at my screen. And in a second, I'm going to take us there. So here we are in the chat. And what I want you to do is I want you to read one section of College Vine. Okay, and it is this. I want you to read the section that begins, "Who reads your application?" I'll write that in the chat box. And I want you to read the section right below it, which is called, "What kind of background do admissions officers usually have?" So read those two sections, and then we're going to talk about who our audience is. Okay, Jenna says, we're reading what's on my screen right now. Hi, Yoselin. We're reading what's up on the screen right now. Okay, so tell me about our college admissions officers. Who are these people? What can you tell me about them? You can put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself, but tell me who they are.
They're usually like, what is it called, alumni, or like people who went to the college before and had what, arts and humanities majors.
Yeah, very good, Isis. So they are graduates of this school. That means they love this school, right? They care a lot about it. They are diverse, right? They're not all going to be white women. Yeah. How old are they? I'm not looking for a number age, just in general. Yeah, they're young, right? They're young, and young people are different than people who are like my age. All right, I'm 45. And so what's different between younger people, say just out of college, 22 or so, and 45? viewpoints, right?
Yeah.
Good, Jared. Mindset. In my experience, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, the younger people tend to be more idealistic, more hopeful, more optimistic, more anxious to make a change, and they definitely believe like that change is possible. Older people tend to be a little set in their viewpoints, right? Maybe not, Obed, I'm not sure. Older people tend to be a little more set in their viewpoints, a little resistant to change. We've done it this way works fine, right? So I want you to think about that as you're writing your college essay. That's who you're writing to. You're not writing it for me. You're not writing it for yourself. You're writing it for a group of people who are probably young, idealistic, love the school you're applying to. Okay, that's who you're talking to. So keep that image in the back of your mind because it matters. It matters who you're talking to, and it matters how you write. And then I also want you to think about who you are. What makes you you? Not what makes you unique, all right? What makes you you? You guys are probably 16, 17, 18 years old, and you've had some life experiences. Some of you have probably had some pretty amazing life experiences. You might be someone who's immigrated to our country, right? You might have won an award or done something incredible. But most of us aren't like that at all. Most of us are ordinary, normal. We don't have a big life experience to write about. So don't try to write about a big life experience. What these admissions officers are looking for is growth. Are you able to grow from a situation? That's what they want to know. They don't want to let people into their college who are set in their ways and aren't going to grow as a person. They want people who have shown growth and are likely to continue to grow. That's who they want, all right? So that is what you need to show them. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to watch a video. It's about 18 minutes long. It's from a website called ArgueLab, which has a lot of information on it about college applications. So we're going to watch this, and then afterwards, I'm going to give you guys an assignment. All right. So this is what it looks like. It says, for the ideal college essay, follow these steps. And it's going to tell you some do's and don'ts. And the guy who's speaking is going to tell you some do's and don'ts. And this whole slide with all the links will be up in the classroom by the end of the day today. So you can access it if you get kicked off. But I do want you to pay attention to what he says, because this man has mentored kids into colleges all across the country, including Harvard, Obed, all over the place. So he knows what he's talking about. He's an expert. And so let's learn from him. And he's muted. So let's try that again.
Admissions essay. Some years ago, when my son George was a junior in high school, he asked me to help him with his college admissions essay. He'd been planning to write it over the summer. I said yes on 3 conditions. First, I wouldn't write any of it for him. I'd only critique each draft. Second, he had to write a lot of drafts, and I had no idea how many he'd end up writing. I think it was a total of like 38 drafts. Third, he had to prepare to make this the most miserable summer he'd ever spent, and that proved to be true for both of us, actually.
Hey, is it worth it? Oh yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough.
So I say to him when he first asks for my help, "What are you thinking you'll write about?" He says, "I'm thinking of writing about my headache." Your headache, okay? It turned out to be an absolutely brilliant choice. At the end of that summer, he had an essay that not only helped him get into a highly selective college, he and I learned a lot about what makes a college essay great. And that's what we're going to cover here. You can see a few of these techniques on my website, arguelab.com, or in my book, Thank You for Arguing. But I'm going to get more specific here. We're going to drill down into a particular kind of essay that will not only help you sell yourself to colleges, it just might change your life. First, let's talk about what a personal essay is and what it does. The term essay comes from one of my heroes, Michel de Montaigne. He's famous for having invented the essay as a literary form. He called it an assay, or in English, an essay, same thing. That's where you melt down a metal or other substance in order to analyze it, see what it's made of, determine its worth. At the advanced age of 38, Montaigne decided to do this with himself. In the middle of a terrible pandemic, he retreated to his chateau to examine himself, under the assumption that, as a human, he shared the most important traits with other humans. By assaying himself, he would assay all of humanity. And this is what you need to do in your college essay. Assay yourself, show your worth as a candidate, and make the admissions officer fall in love. So let's start with the don'ts, what you should not do. First, don't brag about how awesome you are. Admissions officers tell me they get way too many of these types of essays. How I learned I was an amazing leader. As captain of my soccer team, we were about to lose the championship when I discovered at the last minute that I had the ability to inspire my teammates. Or the day I discovered that foreigners are actual people. My rich parents sent me abroad, remember when they could do that? So that I could learn to use empathy in every other sentence. Or my grandmother taught me values and then she died. Actually, that last one doesn't count as bragging. It's just that admissions officers tell me they're sick of reading about grandmothers. Too many students do that. Well, so what? Why can't you just write about whatever you want? I'll tell you why. It's because the college essay is not just a literary exercise. It's a rhetorical one. It's a sales document. It's an act of persuasion. And the first rule of rhetoric is it's not about you. Rhetoric is all about the audience. It's about getting and holding their attention, gaining their trust, and convincing them. Before you can do any of these things, you have to know who your audience is. And I'll tell you who this admissions officer is, or at least what mood she's in. She's bored.
I'm bored. I'm so bored.
She has to read thousands of these essays, thousands of grandmothers and trips abroad and young awesomeness. Or she's seeing a wordy repetition full of life journeys and empathy for strangers. Meanwhile, she's looking for something she rarely sees often enough, a particular trait that she usually can't see in a transcript or board scores or even in alumni interviews. Focus on that one thing and you're on your way to a winning essay, one that hits the bullseye with your audience. And what is that one thing? Well, let me keep you in suspense for a minute longer because I can already hear your objection. What about the prompts? I mean, what about the questions in the common application that you can choose from? Actually, note number 7. Maybe this isn't such a problem. But on the other hand, what about the prompts individual colleges use? Well, as every media consultant will tell you, you should give the answer you want, regardless of the question. In the case of essay prompts, I'd suggest ignoring them at first. Just ignore them, at least until you've written a draft or two. Focus instead on the one thing the admissions officer is looking for. And that one most important thing she's looking for is your ability to grow. That's the main secret to a winning essay.
Okay, let me stop for a second. Can you guys see the video? Yes or no? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to go back and keep presenting it. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, here we go.
Every admissions officer I've talked to says this is the most important winning trait, the one that doesn't show up in transcripts. An ability to learn, to adapt,
to change, to grow. This reveals the student who will get the most out of a college education. And it's especially important if you don't happen to be perfect. If you didn't do a jillion activities and score perfect grades from age 3 on, plus a character's growth and change, form the backbone of every great story, which is what every winning college essay should do. Show an ability to grow, tell a great yarn. Now, when you look at the prompts, you can see that a personal growth story works for every single one of them. So never mind those prompts. Make sure your essay does those two things, growth and storytelling. So now let's talk about how to achieve that. We're about to go over the details of a very specific kind of essay. I call it the Epiphanic Essay because it has to do with an epiphany, a discovery, a moment of sudden awareness when the scales fall from your eyes and you become wise. An epiphany usually starts with some sort of crisis, some internal conflict. So that's what you're going to start with. You're going to write a sentence or two that sums up the whole deal, your personal crisis that leads to a moment of self-discovery. Now, Huckleberry Finn faces just such a crisis when he has to decide whether to turn in his friend Jim, a runaway slave. As a good Southerner, Huckleberry knows it's a sin not to return stolen property, and Jim has stolen himself. But Huckleberry chooses friendship over his own moral code. All right, he says to himself, I'll go to hell. And he instantly grows in this self-discovery. So Huck Finn's pith would be, should I obey the law or save my friend? In Julia Giles' wonderful novel, News of the World, a young girl learns to trust a man she'd been taught to believe was her enemy. She was a white girl captured by Plains Indians who treated her as one of her own. And she learns during a battle to love an old man who should be her worst enemy. The girl's pith, can a white man be my friend? But the best example I can give is that of my own son, George. At the beginning of 7th grade, he developed chronic headache syndrome, a splitting headache that can last for months, even years. It gets triggered by a virus. And in a type A person like George, it creates a sort of negative feedback loop. The headache causes stress, which makes the headache worse. Like Huck Finn, he found himself confronting his own identity, his type A identity. He spent a whole miserable semester out of school, lying on our living room couch. And eventually he ended up in a psychologist's office with wires attached to his head, trying with his own brain to make a set of red bars on a computer monitor all turn green. The psychologist, a Dr. Kravitz, was a biofeedback expert. And he tells George that the way to change the bars on the screen is to let go of his struggles. Dr. Kravitz tells him, try not to try. Being the goal-oriented type he is, George sits down at the machine and pushes his brain. He'll make those bars turn green. And of course, they don't. This is the pith of his essay, the moment of greatest conflict on the edge of his epiphany, when he learns the secret of trying not to try. Is it easy to come up with this sort of pith, this moment when you have to rethink your very you-ness? Of course it's not easy. Writing isn't easy. Anyway, think of a moment in your own life when your own identity was challenged, when it made you miserable, or when you discovered you were wrong about yourself, or when you found that the very trait that made you such a loser turned out to be an asset. Let's try the epiphanic technique on the topics that are boring those poor admissions officers across the land. Instead of how I discovered I was an amazing leader, I suddenly realized that the best way to lead may be not leading at all. An epiphanic essay on leadership might have as its pith the moment when the weakest member of the team inspired all the others. The one for the Far and Abroad essay could read, I watched in disgust as one of the high status people treated a lower ranked member of the village with condescending scorn. And I realized that I had done exactly the same thing every time I told a non-PC joke. For the grandmother essay, a pith might be something like, when I showed her my prize-winning watercolor, she went up into the attic and brought down a box. It was full of the most beautiful art, including watercolors. I suddenly realized I wasn't so unique after all. Instead, I felt like a link in a wonderful chain. So that's the pith. I thought I was special and learned I was part of something much bigger. Or the thing I was proudest of, the trait that made me me, was exactly what was bringing me to my knees, as in George's essay. Or what I thought was a good thing, something that made my kind special, was actually the worst kind of sin. Or my biggest weakness, something I was most ashamed of, became my biggest source of strength. So, got it? The pith is the first thing you write. Just a brief note about how your identity was challenged. It might take a long time to craft your pith, which is why it's a really bad idea to try and write a college essay in one weekend or even in 1 month. Back to George and his essay. At this point, actually after a couple weeks of trying to figure out what the heck was the pith of his essay, he had his moment of maximum conflict. It was also the climax of his story, though he didn't realize it yet. So let's turn to the next step. One of the biggest mistakes beginning writers make when they try to do an outline is to write it in proper order, writing the beginning first, then the next part, then the next, and so on, until at last you put down a few words for the ending. This defeats the purpose of an outline. You might as well just write the darn essay. To make the outline work, and you should do an outline, you need first to put down the elements in no particular order. So what do I mean by elements? Well, let's look at George's story. First of all, there's the pith. My type A-ness is ruining my life and I need to find a way to deal with it. Okay, so what other elements are there? He lists a bunch of scenes, descriptions, and actions. Again, these are just the various parts he's laying out. It's sort of like the scene in Deadpool where the blind woman lays out the parts for the IKEA furniture, the Kulin, or was it the Herdal? God, I love that movie. The elements list just lays out the parts. Then once you have all the parts laid out, you mess around with them, see what order you want to put them in, which is the next step in crafting our essay. You write an outline. Now, the classic way to organize a story is the hero's journey. The main character leaves home or his comfort zone or whatever because of some sort of conflict or challenge. She may be reluctant at first, but ends up committing. She attempts some solutions, tries and fails. Along the way, she gathers knowledge and maybe an ally or two, a wise counselor or friends or fellow warriors. Alone or with the others, the hero overcomes obstacles, deals with setbacks, and ends up in a climactic battle or on a ledge or at a moment of truth or in a mind-blowing dialogue. In any case, the climax constitutes a clash of opposing forces, and its outcome is some sort of victory for the hero, often an unexpected kind of victory. And most important, the hero learns something to take back to the village or to college, whatever. George's essay topic seems perfect for a hero's journey outline. It might look something like this. He arranges the elements in an outline that tells his hero's journey, and he tweaks some of those elements along the way. In one of those elements, he begins to ask himself questions. The first question he asks himself is if he should be like Job in the Bible. God gives Job boils, kills his family, takes everything he has, but in the end, Job accepts his fate. God puts everything back to rights. So, if you don't mind, let me read you the very end of George's essay when he asks the questions while staring at a beautiful picture on the wall of a field of grass. What if I acted like Job? Would my life come back? Maybe this is what trying not to try is like. Instead of putting myself in the field, what if I simply let the field be the field? One bar goes green. Okay, one bar is green. I'm starting to get what the doctor is saying, but I don't really like it. Will this be one of life's limitations? Spending the rest of my life trying not to try? Will I have to change who I am? The world has expanded for me, and I am no longer the center. Sure, I can't change everything, and there is the crux of the whole thing. I'll always be hard-headed and stubborn. Still, as I look at the painting, it comforts me. It's perfect and peaceful without me. It's beautiful all on its own. I don't have to do anything. Accepting things that are beyond me, being comforted by something that exists, regardless of what I do. Is this what faith is? All the bars turn green. Forgive me for bragging about my son here, but That essay ended up being one of 5 that were read to the entire first year class at Middlebury College, a really terrific school. And I'm convinced it helped George sell himself to the school. He portrayed himself as a seeker of wisdom, one who can grow and change, who's willing to challenge his own identity, and who knows a great epiphany when he sees one, all by writing about his headache, which was entirely his idea. Now, keep in mind that this kind of essay isn't easy to pull off, and it shouldn't be. The epiphany comes after a struggle, and so does this essay. You should maybe write a bunch of piths to find the one that truly suits you. Then be prepared to rewrite the list of elements several times before you even attempt an outline. Once you draft the essay itself, you should be willing to rewrite it a bunch of times. Make every sentence beautiful and rhythmic, full of concrete details, and clean of all cliches. Then work on transitions between paragraphs so that one flows inevitably into the next. Focus on the climax, the moment of truth, your epiphany. And finally, experiment with different endings. The ideal ending should make the admissions officer gasp. And take your time. Even Shakespeare probably did his share of rewriting. I believe that the college admissions essay is one of the most important things of work any student can do in high school. And not just because it can help you get into the college of your choice. It's actually much more than that. The essay truly is an assay, a self-examination. And I'm not just talking about an aspiring writer. I've worked with students who went on to brilliant scientific careers or became accomplished photographers, successful business owners. All of them tell me that this act of assaying themselves was one of the fundamental moments in their maturity. But wait, one more thing. There's an old story I heard at Dartmouth about a classics professor who taught a course in ancient Greek. When only one student signed up for the course, the professor went ahead and taught it anyway. A colleague said to him, "Why on earth are you teaching that entire course just to one student?" And the old professor reared up and said, "To save his immortal soul." And that's the moral to my story for you. Why do you go through such a torturous writing exercise yourself? To save your immortal soul. So if you want to learn more about persuading admissions officers as well as teachers, parents, and fellow students, check out my website, argulab.com.
No, this isn't an argument.
Okay. I've posted the slides in our Google Classroom, so you'll be able to go back and watch this video from this link, the ArguLab video, or reach that website that way. I hope you guys listen to all of that because I think he's very good at what he does, and he certainly knows the college essay. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to think about your topic, your pith, your epiphany, your moment of change. What is it you'd like to write this essay about? And after you fill out that Google form, you can start writing about the moments connected to this experience, right? I wouldn't start writing the essay straight through because it's going to change. I'd write it more like little moments, almost like on index cards, so that we can adjust them if we need to. You know, I want to put this one in the middle or up front. So I'd write moments instead of trying to write the whole thing together. So before we do the Google form, let me show you a couple of key terms. Pith is the essence of something. So that's what you're trying to find. What's the essence of you? What's the essence of this experience that led to your change? An epiphany is a moment of sudden revelation or insight. And suddenly I realized what? That's what you want your essay to be about. Let me show you the Google form and then I will let you guys go. So hang on. Where is my Google form? Okay, here we go. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. You'll put your name and your period, what you think your topic is, how did you grow as a person? I want you to briefly describe that moment of change. I suddenly realized blank. Then think about who besides you is part of this narrative. Who was with you? And where did it happen? What's the setting of this narrative? And then the last one you don't have to answer, but you can. What questions or additional thoughts do you have? Okay, who's got questions for me?
When is that form due?
Tomorrow at midnight. Jared, I'm not going to give you a topic. I want you to think of your own. So whatever in your life has led you to grow as a person, that's your topic. If you need to talk through some ideas, feel free to reach out to me or ask the people who know you best, right? I would ask my daughter or my boyfriend or my mom. Who knows you best? Who has seen you change? Who could help you know what this moment of growth was for you? Okay? Okay, so that's it. Those are your marching orders. Go fill out the Google form and then maybe start writing through some moments. We'll keep working on this essay throughout this 6 weeks, okay? And so by the time college admissions comes, you should be ready to go. And that's all I've got for you. So if you want to stay on and work through the form or work through some ideas, feel free. Otherwise, you guys are dismissed and I will see you on Thursday.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.